is about parallel and perpendicular lines and how their slopes compare. So the first thing I want to talk about is parallel lines. As you can see, parallel lines go up at the same rate of change or go down at the same rate of change. Rate of change means slope. So you got to know that they have the same slope. So if this line has a slope of 2 over 3, then the other line has to have a slope of 2 over 3. Exactly the same. Now for perpendicular, the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. Now I'll explain to you what those two words mean. Change the sign and flip it. Negative tells you to change the sign. Reciprocal is a fraction flipped. So let's give you an example of what we're looking for. If the original slope on this one is positive, or negative 2 over 3, then the negative reciprocal of that will be positive 3 over 2. So this is just like the definition portion of what you need to understand. Two lines that are parallel have the same slope, and two lines that are perpendicular are complete opposites of each other. Flip it, change the sign. So the first exercise we're going to do is about parallel lines. So over here on this page, all I want you to do is check any one of these boxes, it could be more than one, that are parallel to this equation. So before you do it, parallel means same slope. So let's write down the slope we're looking for here. If the slope here is positive 2, then the same slope will be positive 2. Now all you have to do is look at these answer choices and tell me which ones have the same slope. For the first two, you can see it right now. You don't have to do anything to it. But for letter C and D, you have to get the y by itself before comparing the slopes. So, 2 steps to getting the y by itself. Subtract the x and divide by the coefficient on the y. Try it. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Alright, so on the first two, y is already by itself, which means it's in slope-intercept form. So we can already see the slope and the y-intercept. All we care about though is the slope, not the y-intercept. So this one has a negative 2 slope. Is negative 2 the same as positive 2? No, it is not. This one has a slope of positive 2. Positive 2 is the same as positive 2. So B is checked. Now for C, I don't know yet, so I have to subtract 6x from both sides, which leaves me with 3y equals negative 6x plus 5, and we divide by the coefficient on the y. Now negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. So now we just look at the slope. Is negative 2 the same as positive 2? No, it is not. So now I can test out the last one. On the last one, you still subtract 6x from both sides. That leaves you with negative 3y equals negative 6x plus 5. Now you have to divide by the coefficient, which is going to force you to divide a negative by a negative. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So negative 6 divided by negative 3 is positive 2. Positive 2 is the same as positive 2. So you would check the last one also. So in this case, B and D are parallel. How do we know they're parallel? Because they have the same slope. Any questions on this one? So now on the next one, I want you to do the same thing, but it's not going to say parallel anymore. It's going to say perpendicular. So on this one, let's figure out what slope we're looking for before we even look at the answer choices. Here we have positive 3, which is 3 over 1. Because it says perpendicular, we're going to grab that 3 over 1, change the sign, and flip it. So now we know what we're looking for here. Any of these equations that end up with negative 1/3 as a slope is the answer. So go ahead and try it. All right, let's review it. Yes.
Do I say what I got?
Which one did you select? Yeah.
I got B and C.
You got B and C. So off the bat, I'll tell you one of them is wrong. So let's start. Is the y by itself on this equation? Yes, it is. That means we can see the slope because the slope always touches the x. So negative 3 is the slope. Is negative 3 the same as negative 1 over 3? No, it is not. So A is not a choice. On the second one, y is by itself again. So positive 3 is the slope. Negative 1/3 is not positive 3. So B cannot be the answer. Now between the next two, we have to work it out to find out. So the same two steps. Take away the x term from both sides. It leaves you with 12y equals negative 4x plus 3. And now we divide by the coefficient of the y. That leaves me with y equals negative 1 over 3 because negative 4 over 12 simplifies to negative 1 over 3 plus 1 over 4. Is negative 1 over 3 the same as negative 1 over 3? Yes, it is. So we check C. Now, should or should I not test out answer choice D?
No, you should not.
I should not. Why?
Because you already found the same thing, but with addition.
But with addition. Very good. So what Robert's trying to say is, you have the same numbers on both of these equations. The only difference is this sign. So if one of them gave us the correct answer, the other one has to give us the wrong answer. What do you think the slope is going to be for the last one?
Y equals positive 1 over 3x.
Positive 1 over 3x, exactly. So that's why D is not the answer choice. Any questions on that? So this, what you just did right now, this example on the page before, right? This is like the first set of questions that you possibly be asked for parallel and perpendicular lines. To compare equations and pick the ones that are parallel, which means they have the same slope, or compare the slopes perpendicular, which means they're the negative reciprocals of each other. So this is one set. The next set of questions is going to be similar to what we did earlier today and what we did in linear equations. So focus on this one. This one is very important. So let me write the instructions so whenever you see these instructions, you'll remember what you have to do on this. So this is going to say something like this. Write an equation that is parallel to y equals 3x plus 6 and goes through 4, 7. Write that down. Like I said, super important. So please write it down and pay attention to how I do it. So now, if it says parallel, then all you do is grab the slope from this equation to write a new equation. So the only thing you're taking from the original equation is the slope. That y-intercept, you can erase it. It means nothing to us. We're going to write y equals 3x plus b. And now all you do is plug in the x and the y values from this point it goes through, where they belong in this equation. So I put the x where x is, which is 4, and I put the y, which is 7, where y is. Now I just have to solve this. 3 times 4 is 12. And the goal is to get b by itself, so we have to subtract 12 from both sides. Now that gives me b equals -5. So all I have to do now is write this equation, but instead of plus b, put the value you just calculated for b. Y equals 3x minus 5. Any questions on that? Now I want you to try one on your own. So on the next page, I'm going to write down a new equation and a new point, and it's still parallel what we're looking for. So I'm going to make the instructions shorter. Parallel to y equals x minus 4, what goes through -2 comma positive 3. Go ahead and try it on your own. I'll start you off. Y equals, grab this slope, 1x plus b. And now plug in the values where they go and solve for your new b. Review one more time for the person who asked me a question on Remind. Since it says parallel, you put the same slope right here, and then you replace the x and the y values from the point where they belong. Now we just solve for b by adding 2 to both sides, which gives us our new y-intercept. Your equation is going to look just like the original equation, but instead of -4, your new y-intercept is positive 5. So now, on this next page, we're going to call this parallel special case. Now, this is not really a special case, but it's different than the other ones, and I want to explain it to you because it's very good for understanding how these things work. Now, you might get a question that says parallel to y equals 2, but goes through point 2 comma -3. I want to explain to you how you do a question like this, where the equation is the equation of a horizontal line. When there's no x anywhere in the equation, the line is going to be horizontal, perfectly horizontal. So, first thing I'll do is show you this. Let's graph this line. Y equals 2 is a horizontal line that touches positive 2. So that is the original equation. Now, for this question, you don't have to show work. You literally just have to write the answer because it's so easy. So watch. Mark down this point, 2 comma -3. It's down here. Now, the word here says parallel. So obviously, you're going to draw a line that's parallel to that one. So you're drawing another horizontal line. But instead of touching positive 2, it's touching down here where that dot is. Now, what number is it touching? Negative 3. So my new equation parallel to y equals 2 that goes through 2 comma negative 3 is y equals negative 3. So what's the shortcut to that? All you do is put y equals the y value. So just to make sure we understand this, if I change the parent equation to y equals 4, and I tell you I want the parallel one that goes through 2 comma 5, what is my new equation? No work. You don't need to do work. Just
Y equals 5.
That's it. Y equals 5. That's the y value, so it has to be the number. Very good. Any questions on this one? So now we get to the last one, the perpendicular. So for perpendicular, I'm going to do one for you and then give you one to try on your own. So here it's going to say, write the equation that is parallel to, not parallel, perpendicular. Perpendicular to y equals negative 5x plus 1 and goes through point 2 comma negative 1. Don't do it on your own, I'm about to show you. So first thing you do, because you read the word perpendicular, you know you're not using the same slope because that's parallel. So in this case we write y equals, and instead of negative 5 over 1, flip it and change the sign. So it becomes positive 1 over 5. And now you do the same thing you did on the other problems. Plug in your x and y value where x and y are. So this is negative 1 equals 1 over 5 times 2 plus b. Now this can be done in the calculator. You have 2 over 5 plus b on one side, negative 1 on the other. You have to get b by itself. So you subtract 2 over 5 from both sides. Now that would give me b equals negative 7 over 5. So my new equation is going to be y equals 1 over 5x, the reciprocal of this slope, and your new y-intercept that you just got, negative 7 over 5. Any questions on that one before I let you try one on your own? Okay, so on your own, I want you to try this one. Perpendicular to y equals 2x minus 3 and goes through negative 5 comma positive 3. Go ahead and try it. All right, let's review the question. So perpendicular tells you have to grab this slope and flip it and change the sign. So the slope we have to use is negative 1 over 2. So we write y equals negative 1 over 2x plus b, and you replace x with negative 5 and y with positive 3. Now we just have to solve for b. Negative 1/2 times negative 5 is positive 5 over 2. And now we just subtract 5 over 2 from both sides. This gives me v equals 1/2. That can be done in the calculator. I do it in my head because I know it. But you can do it in the calculator. And now my new equation is going to be y equals negative 1 over 2x because it's perpendicular, and my new y-intercept. Any questions on this one?